Greetings, YouTube. Jeanette was a charming 7-year-old child. She had a younger brother who was 5, a mother and a father, and they lived on a farm. One day, her father was taking the family wagon into town to sell off produce and such. Mother was inside doing motherly things, and her brother was with her mother. And she was outside gathering eggs, which is pretty much one of her favorite things to do. And some of the hens had been known to lay the eggs further afield than most of them. So she would go out a little further than normal to look around for the eggs, because sometimes that's where they were. She needed to get them before, the foxes or what have you, or the raccoons would find them. And so, while searching, she found herself surprised by a man wearing dark gray robes. Even more surprised when suddenly she couldn't move at all. And she wanted to scream. She was terrified, but she just couldn't move. And the man knocked her basket from her hand, picked her up, and carried her away. As he carried her, he put a bag over her head so she couldn't see. And the next thing she knows, she finds herself in a damp, quiet place. It's cool, musty. She pulls the bag off her head because now she can function. Now she can move around. And she's in a room. It's a strange room, a room she's never been into, like nothing like she's ever seen. There are shelves, and the shelves are covered with all kinds of strange objects and more books than she's ever seen before. She thought her Gram had a lot of books because she had 4. But there are dozens in this room. One of the things she sees immediately is the door, and she runs to it. As she's trying to pull on the handle, she hears a chuckle, and she turns around, and there's the man. And he's putting the key from the door on the top of a shelf, far outside of Jeanette's reach. He says, "Be quiet. I don't need you yet." Jeanette cowers in a corner, afraid. He turns and walks towards a circle, which has been inlaid into the floor itself. The floor, now that she understands and looks around, the floor of a cave. It's been shaped and modified by someone so that it's more room-like, but it's definitely originally a cave. And laid into the floor is a circle. It's got all kinds of weird things in that circle, little symbols and stuff. She's never seen these before, doesn't know what they mean. Some of them seem to hurt her eyes. And surrounding this circle are candles. Thick, red candles. They're all alight. The man begins to chant. And it grows louder and louder, and Jeanette gets more and more scared. Until finally, there's a boom! And smoke and stench and fire. And standing in the middle of the circle is a huge red figure with horns, tentacles, and arms, and too many legs. It and the man begin to talk. They use words that slip past Jeanette's ears and mind. She can't hold on to them. She doesn't know what they mean. They make her blood run cold. Finally, at one point, Jeanette is even more scared as the man points at her. And the thing in the circle laughs. And there's something in that laugh. Something that reaches deep inside Jeanette's mind. And Jeanette knows like the cornered animal that she is, that this is her last chance to do anything. The man turns back to the thing in the circle, and Jeanette begins to run forward. She doesn't know what she can do. She knows he's much bigger than her, stronger. But as she gets close, she sees on the ground. On the ground, there's a knife. A knife that kind of glows. But Jeanette is beyond caring about that. And she grabs it, and she jumps at the man. And she drives the knife into his back. Now, even an enraged, terrified 7-year-old with a knife isn't enough to kill a man in a single blow. But it is enough to unbalance a man, to push a man forward, past the circle on the ground, into the circle on the ground. And the demon laughs again, and it scoops the man up in one hand with too many fingers, raises him off the ground by his throat, and laughs. It says something again in those horribly twisted words, and the man begins to sob. It turns and looks at Jeanette, with what it seems to be 100 eyes, and says something again in that twisted, horrible tongue, with a twisted, horrible tongue. And then it speaks the words that Jeanette can hear and understand. And they sound like they're coming from the bottom of a grave. And it says, "The pact has been completed," and it and the man disappear. Jeanette collapses, vomiting, crying, sobbing. She eventually straightens herself up enough to figure out that she's alone now. That the only thing left are the candles and the stench. Now that there's no one to stop her, she's able to get a chair and a few books and stack them up until she can get on top of the shelf and get the key. She's so scared it takes her 7 tries to get the key in the hole until she finally gets it in and turns it and throws the door open and runs out. She doesn't know where she is. So she just runs, and she runs, and she runs, until she just can't run anymore. And the next thing she knows, she's hearing voices. She recognizes the miller's voice, and she starts to cry. And the miller finds her, and scoops her up, and brings her home. She sees many of the villagers. They'd all been out looking for her. She tells her parents what happened, but they look at her with concern, but they don't believe her. But all that matters is that she's the precious little 7-year-old child, and she's home safe. And Jeanette has nightmares every night. But the daytime kind of goes back to its normal. And over the time, the nightmares happen less and less. Before you know it, Jeanette turns 8, and everything is pretty much the way it's always been. And then Jeanette turns 9, and the villagers begin to whisper. Because Jeanette hasn't aged a day since the miller found her in the forest. She's just the same as she was on the day she disappeared. They start to call her a changeling, a witch. They pelt her in the streets. They make signs of protection around her. They stop doing business with her family, and they begin to fall on hard times. And one drunken night, in a rage, her father slaps her. And Janine doesn't react, which makes him madder, so he slaps her again. And she doesn't react. And he starts to punch her. And nothing. He hits her with a wooden spoon, and nothing happens. And finally, beyond reason, he grabs the poker from the fire and he beats his charming daughter with it. And this works. And she cries out in pain. And he stumbles away and blacks out. The next day he wakes up and he's terrified to go to look where she sleeps. Terrified to imagine that he killed his only daughter. He finds Jeanette without a mark on her. He grabs his wife and his son, and they flee. And Jeanette realizes that she's alone. So she pries up the stone that she knows her father uses to hide what meager money the family has. And she takes it. And she leaves. Things are hard for a 7-year-old in the world when they're alone. Things happen to her that you don't want to happen to anyone. But she survives. And she learns that she's tougher than most folks. She learns that she's harder, a little faster. She learns that the 7-year-old now can kill. And so she does. She does what she has to survive. Sometimes conning people, sometimes taking a human, other adult partner. And eventually she just becomes a brigand. Helps people, lure people. She doesn't like to kill the innocents, and she doesn't. But those that try to hurt her, they don't live long. She moves a lot, because it's strange for a 7-year-old to be quite as vicious as she is. When she was 23, and still a charming little 7-year-old, she hears about some children have gone missing in a village. So she goes there. And she poses as one, just a street kid. It takes 3 weeks before the person who's been taking the kids finally grabs Jeanette. She pretends that his cloth with the alchemical mix in it knocks her unconscious, but it doesn't. It doesn't have any effect on her at all, but she pretends it does. She waits for him to carry her back to his lair, where there are 2 children who are still alive. And then she kills him, first stabbing him with a needle coated in a paralytic poison. And then when he can't move, she kills him in a way that is slow and painful and memorable. She sets the children free. She tells them, tell everyone, there's no need to worry now. And Jeanette finds her calling. She hunts those that hunt the kids, that go after them, the slavers, the traitors, the run-of-the-mill kidnappers, pedophiles. Between missions, She steals and cons, sometimes with partners and sometimes alone. She's gotten very good at her job. Sometimes she just pays off a thieves guild to leave her alone. Sometimes she works for them directly. A few months, maybe a year, then she moves on. Always looking for the next person to hunt. The next one that needs to leave this world so the children will be left alone. And at the time Jeanette enters your campaign, she's 91. And still that precious little 7-year-old. She has energy resistance like a demon, damage resistance, complete immunity to poisons and disease, rapid regeneration. She's very hard to kill. A selection of magic items might be useful. Ring of invisibility, maybe a ring of dark vision. Maybe she has dark vision, who knows. But Jeanette is very dangerous. She hunts and she kills. She lures. She takes vengeance. And sometimes at night, when she's alone, she wonders, because she never ever sleeps anymore. Is her soul lost? Was she redeeming herself by taking out the killers and the traitors, the slavers, and the pedophiles? She wonders if she'll ever die. There are times she longs for it, and there are times she fears it. And she just keeps going. Notching up one killer after another, creating a legend that there's something out there that hunts the hunters. And maybe, just maybe, it means that a few kids don't get taken or don't get hurt because the perpetrators realize that they can't take on the thing that comes in the night, that freezes them in their steps and kills them slowly, painfully, and memorably. Jeanette may well be eternal. What will you do with her?